How often do you feel like time is slipping away, slipping through your fingers no matter how hard you try to hold onto it? Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." These words hit hard because they remind us that time is our most precious resource, yet so many of us spend it without truly valuing it. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, offers profound insights into how we can reclaim our time, live with purpose, and prioritize what truly matters. In this video, we'll explore 22 Stoic reflections designed to help you live more intentionally. From understanding the fleeting nature of time to aligning your actions with your deepest values, these lessons are not just philosophical ideas, they're practical tools you can use every single day. Let's begin this journey together and discover how Stoicism can transform the way you think about time, purpose, and the choices you make. Stoicism begins with a simple truth: we cannot control everything. This might sound obvious, but how often do we find ourselves stressing over things that are entirely outside our power? The weather, traffic, other people's opinions. These are all external forces that we can't change, no matter how much effort we put into it. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, put it this way: some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, and aversion. In a word, whatever is of our own doing. This is the core of the Stoic dichotomy of control, understanding the difference between what's in our hands and what isn't. When it comes to time and priorities, this idea becomes even more crucial. Think about it. How much of your day is spent worrying about things you can't influence? Social media, for example, often pulls us into endless cycles of comparison and frustration. We scroll through carefully curated feeds, feeling like we're falling behind, but the truth is, we have no control over what others post or how they live their lives. What we can control is how we respond to these distractions. Do we let them steal our focus, or do we choose to direct our energy toward what truly matters to us? Here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. Is there an area where you're trying to control the uncontrollable? Maybe it's a relationship, a career goal, or even something as simple as trying to get everyone to like you. Recognizing where you're investing energy into the wrong things is the first step toward reclaiming your time and aligning your priorities with what's actually within your power. Stoicism doesn't just offer wisdom, it gives us a framework to live more intentionally, starting with this fundamental truth. What would you do if you knew you had only a year left to live? It's a jarring question, isn't it? But it's one that forces us to confront the reality of time as a finite resource. The Stoics understood this deeply, especially Seneca, who wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." At first glance, this might seem contradictory. How can life be long when we're constantly reminded of its shortness? The key lies in how we choose to spend our days. Time, in the Stoic view, isn't about the quantity of years, but the quality of how we fill them. Seneca often lamented how people squander their time on trivial pursuits, chasing wealth, seeking approval, or drowning in distractions while neglecting what truly matters. He observed that many of us treat time as if it's infinite, postponing our dreams or delaying meaningful actions because we assume there will always be more of it. But Stoicism challenges this mindset. It asks us to see time for what it is, a non-renewable resource. Once a moment is gone, it's gone forever. Consider this. How did you spend your last week? Did your actions reflect your deepest values, or were they consumed by things that, in the grand scheme, don't really matter? It's easy to get caught up in the busyness of life, meetings, errands, endless scrolling, but Stoicism invites us to pause and ask ourselves whether we're using our time or simply losing it. Here's a practical way to apply this Stoic wisdom. Take a step back and look at your daily habits. Are you investing your time in relationships, growth, and experiences that bring you closer to the person you want to be? Or are you letting it slip away on things that, years from now, you won't even remember? The Stoics believed that living a meaningful life isn't about having more time. It's about making the most of the time you have, and that starts with being intentional about how you spend it. Imagine standing at the edge of a river, watching time flow past you. The water rushes by, carrying leaves, branches, and debris, moments of the past you can never retrieve. The Stoics often used imagery like this to remind us of the fleeting nature of time, but more importantly, they emphasized the power of the present moment. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." These words are a call to action, a reminder that the present is all we truly have. In our modern world, the idea of living in the moment can feel almost revolutionary. We're so accustomed to multitasking, checking emails while eating lunch, scrolling through our phones during conversations, or planning tomorrow's to-do list while trying to enjoy today. But Stoicism challenges this fragmented way of living. It asks us to focus on the here and now, to fully engage with the task or person in front of us. Why? Because the present is the only place where life actually happens. The past is gone and the future is uncertain. Marcus Aurelius didn't just preach this idea, he lived it. As a Roman emperor, his responsibilities were immense, yet he consistently reminded himself to stay grounded in the present. He understood that no matter how chaotic life became, the ability to focus on the moment at hand was a source of strength and clarity. For us, this might look like savoring a meal without distractions, truly listening when someone speaks, or even just taking a deep breath and noticing the world around us. Here's a question to reflect on. When was the last time you gave your full attention to one thing without letting your mind wander to what's next or what's behind? It's harder than it sounds, isn't it? But this is where Stoic mindfulness comes in. By practicing presence, we reclaim our time and our lives from the grip of distraction. Today, try this simple exercise. Choose one activity, whether it's washing dishes, walking your dog, or having a conversation, and commit to being fully present. Notice the details, the sensations, the emotions that arise. It's not about perfection, it's about practice. Over time, you'll find that this Stoic approach to the present moment doesn't just make life richer, it makes it more meaningful. And in a world that often feels like it's moving too fast, that's a gift worth cultivating. Your priorities reveal your true values. This statement might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's one of the most powerful truths Stoicism offers. Think about it. How we spend our time, energy, and attention is a direct reflection of what we truly care about, whether we realize it or not. The Stoics, like Epictetus, understood this deeply. He once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, clarity about who you want to become must come before action. Without this alignment, we risk living lives that feel fragmented, unfulfilled, or even misdirected. So, what does it mean to align your priorities with your values? Let's break it down. Imagine two people. One spends their days chasing wealth, status, and external validation, while the other focuses on building meaningful relationships, personal growth, and contributing to their community. On the surface, both might appear successful, but only one is living in alignment with what truly matters to them. The Stoics would argue that the second person is far wealthier in the ways that count: inner peace, purpose, and fulfillment. This isn't to say that material success is inherently bad. The problem arises when it becomes the sole focus, overshadowing deeper, more enduring values. Stoicism teaches us to evaluate our priorities regularly, ensuring they reflect not just what we want, but who we want to be. It's about shifting from a life driven by external pressures to one guided by internal clarity. Here's a practical way to apply this Stoic principle. Take a moment to list your top 3 priorities right now. What do they say about your values? Now, compare that list to how you actually spend your days. Are your actions in harmony with your stated priorities, or is there a disconnect? For example, if family is a top priority, but you're consistently working late and missing important moments, it might be time to reassess. Stoicism doesn't judge, it simply invites reflection. It's a tool to help you live more intentionally, ensuring that your time and energy are invested in what truly matters to you. So ask yourself, are your priorities aligned with your values? If not, what small changes can you make today to bring them closer together? This is how Stoicism empowers us to live not just efficiently, but meaningfully. Have you ever felt paralyzed by the fear of failure? Maybe it's before a big presentation, a challenging conversation, or even a personal goal you've set for yourself. That fear often comes from a single source, the weight of expectations. We fixate on the outcome, what might go wrong, what others will think, or whether we'll measure up. But what if I told you there's a way to free yourself from that pressure? This is where Stoicism offers a powerful lesson, the art of letting go. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what's within our control, our effort, our mindset, our actions, and to release our grip on the results. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. In other words, while we can't always control the outcome, we can always control how we approach the challenge. This shift in perspective doesn't just reduce anxiety, it empowers us to act with clarity and purpose. Consider the story of an athlete training for a major competition. They could spend every moment obsessing over whether they'll win or lose, but that kind of thinking only adds unnecessary pressure. Instead, they focus on what they can control, their training routine, their technique, their mental preparation. By detaching from the final score, they are able to perform at their best regardless of the outcome. This is the essence of Stoic detachment, not a lack of care, but a deeper understanding of where our power truly lies. Detachment isn't about giving up or being indifferent. It's about redirecting your energy toward what matters most, your effort, your growth, and your ability to stay grounded in the face of uncertainty. Think about your own life for a moment. Is there an area where you're clinging too tightly to a specific result? Maybe it's a project at work, a relationship, or even a personal goal. What would it feel like to shift your focus from the outcome to the process itself? Here's a practical way to start practicing this Stoic principle. Choose one area of your life where you feel overly attached to the results. It could be something small, like a daily task, or something more significant, like a long-term goal. Instead of fixating on the end result, focus on the steps you can take today. How can you show up fully, give your best effort, and let go of the rest? This mindset doesn't just reduce stress, it opens the door to greater resilience and peace no matter what happens. The art of letting go isn't about losing control, it's about reclaiming it. When we stop trying to control the uncontrollable, we find a deeper sense of freedom, and that's where true strength begins. What if every obstacle in your life was actually a chance to become stronger? This might sound counterintuitive, especially when we're in the middle of a tough situation, but it's a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that adversity isn't something to avoid or resent, it's an essential part of growth. Epictetus, one of the most practical Stoic teachers, put it this way: difficulties are things that show a person what they are. In other words, challenges reveal our character, test our resilience, and push us to become better versions of ourselves. This idea is encapsulated in the Stoic concept of amor fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. It's about embracing everything that happens to us, not just the good moments, but the hard ones too. Why? Because every setback, every failure, every obstacle is an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow. Think of it like this: a muscle doesn't get stronger without resistance. In the same way, our minds and spirits grow stronger through the challenges we face. Let's bring this idea to life with a modern example. Imagine someone who loses their job unexpectedly. At first, it feels like a devastating blow, a disruption to their plans and a threat to their stability. But instead of giving in to despair, they choose to see this as an opportunity. They use the time to explore a new career path, develop new skills, or even start a business they've always dreamed of. What seemed like a setback becomes a catalyst for transformation. This is the power of amor fati. It's not about pretending everything is perfect, but about finding meaning and purpose even in the toughest moments. Now consider your own life. Is there a challenge you're facing right now? Something that feels overwhelming or unfair? What if, instead of resisting it, you chose to see it as an opportunity? What could you learn from this situation? How might it help you grow? The Stoics remind us that adversity isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. By shifting our perspective, we can turn obstacles into stepping stones and challenges into chances for growth. Here's a practical way to start practicing this mindset. Take a moment to reflect on a current difficulty in your life. Write it down and then ask yourself, what strengths could this situation help me develop? What lessons could it teach me? By reframing the challenge in this way, you're not just enduring it, you're using it to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. That's the Stoic way: to love your fate, not because it's easy, but because it's yours, and it's shaping you into the person you're meant to be. Stoics believed that an unexamined life is not worth living. This principle lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, emphasizing the importance of self-reflection as a tool for growth and self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most renowned Stoics, exemplified this practice through his personal journaling. His writings, later compiled into meditations, were never meant for public eyes. They were raw, honest reflections on his thoughts, actions, and the lessons he learned each day. Through this habit, he cultivated a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him, turning reflection into a daily ritual of self-improvement. Imagine starting your day with a simple but profound question: what am I grateful for today? Marcus Aurelius often began his mornings with this kind of intentionality, reminding himself of life's preciousness. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This wasn't just poetic musing. It was a deliberate practice to anchor himself in gratitude and purpose before the demands of the day took over. But reflection isn't just for mornings. The Stoics also encouraged looking back at the end of each day. Think of it as a mental audit, a way to assess what went well, what didn't, and what lessons you can carry forward. Did you act in alignment with your values? Were there moments where you lost focus or let external pressures dictate your actions? These aren't questions meant to induce guilt, but to foster growth. By examining your day, you create opportunities to learn and improve, one small step at a time. Here's a practical way to bring this Stoic practice into your own life. Start a daily journal. It doesn't need to be elaborate, just a few minutes each evening to reflect on your day. What were your successes? Where did you struggle? What could you do differently tomorrow? Over time, this habit becomes a mirror, revealing patterns in your behavior and helping you align your actions with your deepest values. Tonight, try this simple exercise. Before you go to bed, take 5 minutes to reflect on your day. What moments brought you joy or satisfaction? Were there times when you felt out of sync with your priorities? By making this a regular practice, you'll not only gain clarity, but also cultivate a sense of purpose that guides your decisions moving forward. Stoic reflection isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And as Marcus Aurelius showed us, even the busiest lives can be enriched by a few moments of quiet introspection. How much of what you own do you truly need? It's a question that might make you pause, especially in a world that constantly tells us to want more, buy more, and accumulate more. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, had a lot to say about this. He warned that excess doesn't lead to happiness, it leads to burden. In his letters, he wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." At its core, this statement isn't just about material wealth. It's about the mindset of constantly chasing what we don't have. Stoicism teaches us that true richness comes from learning to be content with less, not from endlessly pursuing more. Think about it. How much of your stress comes from trying to manage, maintain, or acquire things you don't really need? A cluttered home, an overstuffed calendar, or even a wardrobe full of clothes you never wear. These aren't just physical burdens, they're mental ones. Seneca saw this clearly. He believed that simplicity wasn't just a lifestyle choice, it was a path to freedom. When we let go of what we don't need, we create space not just in our homes but in our mind. Let's take a practical example. Imagine two people. One lives in a house filled with gadgets, furniture, and decorations they rarely use, while the other lives in a smaller, more intentional space with only the essentials. Who do you think feels more at ease? Stoicism would argue that the second person is far wealthier in terms of peace and clarity. They've chosen to focus on what truly matters, freeing themselves from the weight of excess. This idea isn't just about decluttering your closet or clearing out your garage. It's about examining every area of your life, your schedule, your relationships, even your digital spaces. Are they filled with things that add value, or are they cluttered with distractions and obligations that drain your energy? The Stoics remind us that simplicity isn't about deprivation, it's about intentionality. It's about choosing what aligns with your values and letting go of what doesn't. Here's a challenge for you this week. Pick one area of your life to simplify. It could be as small as cleaning out a drawer or as significant as reevaluating how you spend your weekends. As you do this, ask yourself, does this add value to my life, or is it just taking up space? By embracing simplicity, even in small ways, you'll start to experience the freedom the Stoics spoke of, a freedom that comes not from having more, but from needing less. Gratitude is the antidote to discontent. In a world that often feels like it's pushing us to want more success, more possessions, more recognition, Stoicism offers a radically different perspective. The Stoics believed that true contentment doesn't come from acquiring more, but from appreciating what we already have. Epictetus, one of the most practical Stoic philosophers, put it beautifully. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. This simple yet profound idea shifts the focus from lack to abundance, from what's missing to what's already present in our lives. Think about this for a moment. How often do we take the good things in our lives for granted? The roof over our heads, the food on our tables, the people who care about us. These are all gifts, yet it's easy to overlook them when we're caught up in chasing the next big thing. Stoicism doesn't dismiss ambition or growth, but it reminds us that without gratitude, even the most impressive achievements can feel hollow. Research backs this up. Studies have shown that practicing gratitude can significantly improve mental health, reduce stress, and even strengthen relationships. When we take time to acknowledge the good in our lives, we shift our mindset from scarcity to abundance. It's not about ignoring challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about finding balance, recognizing that even in difficult times, there's always something to be grateful for. Here's a practical way to bring this Stoic principle into your daily life. Each evening, take a few minutes to reflect on your day and list 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing. Maybe it's a kind word from a colleague, a moment of quiet during a busy day, or even the warmth of your morning coffee. The act of noticing and appreciating these small joys can have a ripple effect, helping you cultivate a deeper sense of contentment and resilience. Now consider this: what if gratitude wasn't just a practice but a way of life? What if, instead of constantly striving for more, we learn to truly cherish what we already have? Stoicism invites us to explore this possibility, not as a one-time exercise but as an ongoing mindset. It's about training ourselves to see the good, even when it's easy to focus on the bad. So here's a challenge for you today. Pause for a moment and list 3 things you're grateful for. They could be big or small, personal or universal. What matters is the act of noticing and appreciating them. Over time, this simple practice can transform not just how you see the world, but how you live in it. Because gratitude, as the Stoics teach us, isn't just a feeling, it's a choice, and one that has the power to change everything. What do you truly desire and why? It's a question that might feel simple at first, but when you really sit with it, it can reveal so much about what drives you. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, believed that our desires, when left unchecked, are often the root of our suffering. He famously said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." At its core, this statement challenges the way we think about fulfillment. It's not about accumulating more, it's about wanting less. Let's break this down. Imagine standing in front of a store window, gazing at the latest gadget or piece of clothing. For a moment, you feel a rush of excitement, a sense of longing. You might even convince yourself that buying it will bring you happiness. But how long does that feeling last? A day? A week? The Stoics observed that material desires are like this, fleeting and ultimately unsatisfying. They don't bring lasting joy because they're tied to external things, things we can't fully control. Now, contrast that with the joy of meaningful experiences, spending time with loved ones, pursuing a passion, or helping someone in need. These moments don't just feel good in the moment, they stay with us, enriching our lives in ways that possessions never can. This is what Epictetus meant when he spoke of wealth. True wealth isn't about what you own, it's about how free you are from the endless cycle of wanting more. But managing our desires isn't easy. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need more stuff, more status, more success. The Stoics, however, offer a different path. They encourage us to examine our desires, to question whether they're serving us or controlling us. Are we chasing something because it aligns with our values, or because we've been conditioned to believe it will make us happy? This kind of reflection can be uncomfortable, but it's also incredibly liberating. Here's a practical way to start. Take a moment to identify one desire you've been holding on to. Maybe it's a material possession, a career milestone, or even a specific outcome in a relationship. Ask yourself, why do I want this? Is it truly important to me, or is it something I've been told to want? By bringing awareness to your desires, you can begin to untangle what's meaningful from what's merely distracting. Stoicism doesn't ask us to give up everything we want. It simply invites us to examine our wants with honesty and clarity. When we do this, we often find that what we thought we needed wasn't as important as we believed. And in letting go of those unnecessary desires, we create space for what truly matters: peace, purpose, and a deeper sense of fulfillment. So, what's one desire you can release today, not out of deprivation, but out of freedom? Death is not something to fear, but something to prepare for. This might sound unsettling at first, but Stoicism offers a profound perspective on mortality, one that transforms our fear into clarity and purpose. The Stoics, like Seneca, saw death not as an enemy but as a natural and inevitable part of life. Seneca famously wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." These words challenge us to shift our focus from the end of life to the quality of how we live it. For the Stoics, death was a teacher. It reminded them of life's fragility and the importance of making every moment count. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, looking out at the vast horizon. That sense of awe and urgency, that's what the Stoics felt when they reflected on death. It wasn't about morbid fixation. It was about using the awareness of life's brevity as a catalyst for living more intentionally. Seneca often used the metaphor of a candle to illustrate this idea. Just as a candle burns brightly but briefly, so too is our time on earth. The question isn't how long the candle burns, but how brightly. Are we letting fear or hesitation dim our light, or are we living with the kind of passion and purpose that makes every moment shine? This Stoic approach to mortality isn't just philosophical, it's deeply practical. Reflecting on death can inspire us to prioritize what truly matters. Think about it. If you knew you had only 1 year left to live, how would you spend your time? Would you continue chasing trivial goals, or would you focus on the relationships, experiences, and passions that bring you joy and meaning? This isn't a hypothetical exercise, it's a tool for clarity. By confronting our mortality, we gain the courage to live authentically without wasting time on what doesn't matter. Here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to write down one thing you've been putting off, a dream, a conversation, a risk you've been too afraid to take. Now imagine this is your last chance to act on it. What's stopping you? The Stoics believed that the awareness of death could free us from procrastination, regret, and fear. It's not about living recklessly, but about living fully with a sense of urgency and gratitude for the time we have. So, what would you do if you knew your time was limited? The answer to that question might just reveal what you should be doing right now. Because, as the Stoics remind us, the best way to prepare for death is to live a life so rich and meaningful that, when the time comes, you can look back without regret. How do you react when things don't go as planned? Do you find yourself frustrated, overwhelmed, or even spiraling into anxiety? For many of us, the answer is yes, because life, as we know, is unpredictable. But what if there was a way to face the unexpected with calm and clarity, no matter how chaotic the moment? This is where Stoicism's practice of equanimity comes in. Equanimity, at its core, is the ability to remain steady and composed even in the face of adversity. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. Instead, it's about cultivating a mindset that allows you to navigate life's ups and downs with inner peace. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest proponents, captured this idea perfectly in his famous quote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Think about that for a moment, how powerful it is to realize that while we can't control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. This principle was central to Marcus Aurelius' life as both a philosopher and a Roman emperor. Despite the immense pressures of ruling an empire, he consistently reminded himself to approach challenges with calm and perspective. For him, equanimity wasn't just a lofty ideal. It was a daily practice, a way to stay grounded when the world felt anything but. Let's bring this to life with a modern example. Picture a CEO during a company crisis, perhaps a major product failure or a sudden market crash. While panic might seem like the natural response, a Stoic-influenced leader would approach the situation differently. They'd focus on what they can control, gathering the facts, communicating transparently, and making thoughtful decisions. By staying calm, they not only inspire confidence in their team, but also create space for effective problem solving. Now consider your own life. When was the last time you faced an unexpected challenge? Maybe it was a cancelled plan, a difficult conversation, or even a personal setback. How did you respond? The Stoic practice of equanimity invites us to pause in those moments, to take a deep breath, and to ask ourselves, what's within my control here? This simple shift in perspective can transform how we experience life's inevitable disruptions. Here's a practical way to start practicing equanimity this week. The next time something doesn't go as planned, resist the urge to react immediately. Instead, take a moment to ground yourself, whether through deep breathing, a brief walk, or even jotting down your thoughts. Then ask yourself, what can I do right now to move forward? By focusing on your response rather than the event itself, you'll begin to cultivate that stoic calm Marcus Aurelius championed. Equanimity isn't about ignoring life's challenges, it's about meeting them with strength and serenity. And as you practice this mindset, you'll find that even the stormiest days feel a little easier to weather. For Stoics, virtue is the highest good. It's not wealth, fame, or even comfort, it's the quality of your character that defines a life well lived. This idea might seem simple, but its implications are profound. Stoicism teaches that true happiness doesn't come from external achievements or possessions. It comes from aligning your actions with virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential thinkers, put it this way: no man is free who is not master of himself. In other words, freedom isn't about having more choices or fewer obstacles. It's about mastering your own mind and living in accordance with what's right. But what does it mean to live virtuously in today's world? Let's break it down. Imagine a leader facing a difficult decision, one that could impact their team, their company, or even their community. A Stoic approach wouldn't focus on the outcome alone. It would prioritize the process. Are they acting with wisdom, carefully considering the facts? Are they demonstrating courage by standing up for what's right, even when it's unpopular? These virtues aren't just abstract ideals, they're practical tools for navigating complexity with integrity. Take, for example, a CEO deciding whether to prioritize short-term profits or long-term sustainability. A Stoic leader would weigh the decision not just in terms of financial gain, but in terms of justice, what's fair for employees, customers, and the environment. By grounding their choices in virtue, they create a ripple effect, inspiring others to act with similar principles. This is the power of Stoic ethics. It transforms individual actions into collective progress. Now think about your own life. How can you embody Stoic virtues in your daily choices? Perhaps it's practicing wisdom by pausing before reacting in a heated moment. Or maybe it's showing courage by stepping outside your comfort zone to pursue a goal. Virtue isn't about perfection, it's about progress, one small, intentional decision at a time. Here's a challenge for you today. Choose one Stoic virtue: wisdom, courage, justice, or self-discipline, and find one way to practice it. It could be as simple as listening more attentively in a conversation or standing up for someone who needs support. By integrating these principles into your life, you're not just following Stoic philosophy, you're building a life of meaning and purpose. And in a world that often feels chaotic, that's a legacy worth striving for. How often do you measure your worth against others? Whether it's scrolling through social media, glancing at a coworker's promotion, or even comparing your life to a friend's highlight reel, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparison. But here's the thing, Stoicism warns us that this habit is one of the quickest paths to discontent. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most insightful voices, put it bluntly: it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. At its core, this statement isn't just about material wealth. It's about the mindset of constantly measuring yourself against others, a mindset that leaves you feeling perpetually lacking. The Stoics understood that comparison is a thief. It steals your joy, your peace, and your ability to appreciate what you already have. When you're always looking at what someone else has achieved, acquired, or experienced, you're not living your own life, you're living in their shadow. And here's the paradox: the more you chase what others have, the further you move from your own unique path. Let's take social media as an example. Platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn often present curated versions of reality highlight reels that show only the best moments. When you compare your everyday life to someone else's polished posts, it's easy to feel like you're falling behind. But the Stoics would remind us that this is an illusion. What you see online isn't the full picture. It's a carefully crafted narrative designed to inspire envy or admiration. And when you base your self-worth on these incomplete stories, you're setting yourself up for dissatisfaction. So how can we break free from this cycle? The Stoics offer a simple yet powerful solution. Focus on your own progress. Instead of asking, "Why don't I have what they have?" ask, "Am I moving closer to the person I want to become?" This shift in perspective doesn't just reduce the sting of comparison, it empowers you to take ownership of your life. Here's a practical way to start. The next time you catch yourself comparing your achievements, your appearance, or your lifestyle to someone else's, pause for a moment. Acknowledge the thought without judgment, and then gently redirect your focus. What's one step you can take today to move closer to your own goals? Maybe it's learning a new skill, nurturing a relationship, or simply practicing gratitude for what you already have. Stoicism doesn't ask us to ignore others' successes or stop striving for growth. It simply reminds us that true fulfillment comes from within, from aligning our actions with our values and celebrating our own progress, no matter how small. So, the next time comparison creeps in, remember Seneca's wisdom. The richest life isn't the one with the most, but the one that's free from the endless craving for more. What would it feel like to measure your worth not by others' standards, but by your own? Acceptance is the first step toward peace. It's a simple truth, yet one that can feel incredibly challenging to live by. Stoicism teaches us that much of our suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from our resistance to them. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most practical philosophers, put it this way: make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. These words are a reminder that life is full of circumstances beyond our control, and our power lies not in changing them, but in how we respond. Think about it. How often do we waste energy fighting against reality? Maybe it's a job loss, a breakup, or even something as mundane as a traffic jam. We get frustrated, angry, or anxious, not because these situations are inherently unbearable, but because we refuse to accept them. The Stoics believed that this resistance creates unnecessary pain. By learning to accept what we cannot change, we free ourselves from the weight of denial and open the door to inner peace. Let's take a modern example. Imagine someone who's been passed over for a promotion they worked hard for. The initial reaction might be disappointment, even resentment. But a Stoic approach would shift the focus from what's lost to what's still possible. Instead of dwelling on the unfairness, they'd ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow?" By accepting the situation, they're able to move forward with clarity and purpose rather than staying stuck in frustration. This isn't about giving up or being passive. Acceptance is an active choice, a decision to stop fighting reality and start working with it. It's about recognizing that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. And in that response lies our greatest power. Now take a moment to reflect on your own life. Is there something you've been resisting, a situation, a relationship, or even a personal flaw? What would it feel like to stop fighting it and instead accept it as part of your journey? This doesn't mean you have to like it or approve of it, but simply acknowledging it can be the first step toward finding peace. Here's a challenge for you. Identify one thing in your life that's outside your control. It could be as small as a rainy day or as significant as a health diagnosis. Instead of resisting it, try to approach it with acceptance. Ask yourself, how can I make the best of this situation? By practicing this Stoic principle, you'll not only reduce your stress but also discover a deeper sense of resilience and calm. Acceptance isn't about surrendering, it's about finding strength in what you cannot change. What's stopping you from taking the first step? It's a question that can feel both empowering and uncomfortable because it forces us to confront the gap between what we want and what we're actually doing. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, had a lot to say about this. He believed that living a meaningful life wasn't just about thinking or philosophizing, it was about doing. In his famous words, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. This isn't just a call to action, it's a reminder that virtue and purpose are built through consistent, intentional effort, not endless deliberation. The Stoics understood that action is the bridge between thought and reality. It's one thing to value kindness, courage, or discipline, but it's another to embody those values in your daily life. Marcus Aurelius, as both a philosopher and a Roman emperor, lived this principle every day. His journal, Meditations, is filled with reminders to himself to act in alignment with his ideals, no matter how small the action might seem. He knew that even the grandest visions are achieved through small, steady steps. Let's bring this idea to life with a practical example. Imagine someone who dreams of writing a book. They might spend months or even years planning, researching, and waiting for the perfect moment to start, but the Stoic approach would be different. Instead of waiting for inspiration or the right conditions, they'd focus on taking one small step today. Maybe it's writing a single paragraph, outlining a chapter, or even just setting a timer for 10 minutes of focused work. Over time, those small actions add up, turning a distant dream into a tangible reality. This principle applies to so much more than creative pursuits. Whether it's improving your health, building stronger relationships, or advancing in your career, the key is to start where you are. The Stoics remind us that waiting for the perfect moment is often just an excuse to avoid the discomfort of beginning. But here's the truth: action doesn't require perfection, it only requires intention. So here's a challenge for you today. Identify one goal or value that's important to you. It could be something you've been putting off or a habit you've been meaning to build. Now ask yourself, what's one small step I can take right now to move closer to it? It doesn't have to be grand or life-changing, just something that aligns with your values and moves you forward. Stoicism teaches us that the power to change our lives lies not in lofty plans or abstract ideals, but in the choices we make every day. Each small action is a vote for the person you want to become, and when you look back, you'll see that those small steps were the ones that carried you the farthest. So, what's your first step going to be? Patience is not passive, it's a form of strength. In a world that often celebrates speed and instant results, Stoicism offers a counterintuitive yet profound perspective. True patience is an active, deliberate practice. It's not about waiting idly or resigning to circumstances. It's about maintaining calm and clarity even when life tests us. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, understood this deeply. He wrote, "Time heals what reason cannot." These words remind us that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond, and sometimes the most powerful response is simply to wait. For the Stoics, patience wasn't just a virtue, it was a tool for resilience. Think about it. How often do we rush to fix problems, force solutions, or demand immediate answers? While action is important, there are moments when the best thing we can do is pause and allow time to work its magic. Seneca saw patience as a way to endure life's challenges without losing our inner peace. It's about trusting the process even when the outcome feels uncertain. Let's bring this idea to life with a practical example. Imagine you're in a heated argument with a loved one. Emotions are running high and every word seems to escalate the tension. In that moment, patience isn't about giving in or staying silent. It's about choosing to step back, to breathe, and to let the intensity pass before responding. This small act of patience can transform a destructive conflict into an opportunity for understanding and growth. But patience isn't just about relationships, it's also a key ingredient for personal growth. Consider someone learning a new skill, like playing an instrument or mastering a language. Progress can feel painfully slow, and frustration often creeps in. The Stoic approach would be to embrace the process, to celebrate small victories, and to trust that consistent effort will eventually yield results. As Seneca reminds us, time has a way of smoothing out even the roughest edges if we let it. Now take a moment to reflect on your own life. Is there an area where you've been struggling to find patience? Maybe it's a project at work, a personal goal, or even a relationship that's testing your limits. What would it look like to approach that situation with a Stoic mindset, not as something to rush through, but as an opportunity to practice strength through waiting? Patience, as the Stoics teach us, isn't about inaction, it's about intentional calm. It's the quiet strength that allows us to navigate life's storms without losing our way. So, the next time you feel the urge to rush, remember Seneca's wisdom. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply wait and trust that time will do the rest. Who are the people that truly matter in your life? Take a moment to think about it, not just the names that come to mind, but the relationships that shape who you are and how you live. Stoicism, often seen as a philosophy of self-reliance, actually places a profound emphasis on the value of meaningful connections. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most celebrated thinkers, put it this way: friendship always benefits, love sometimes injures. At its core, this statement isn't just about the contrast between friendship and love. It's about the kind of relationships that enrich our lives and help us grow. For the Stoics, friendship wasn't just about companionship or shared interests. It was about virtue. True friendship, in Seneca's view, is rooted in mutual respect, honesty, and a shared commitment to living well. It's not about what you can gain from the relationship, but how you can support and inspire one another to become better versions of yourselves. This idea might sound lofty, but it's deeply practical. Think about it. How often do we surround ourselves with people who reflect our values and challenge us to grow? Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine two friends who meet regularly to discuss their goals, struggles, and aspirations. They don't just exchange pleasantries or gossip. They hold each other accountable, offer honest feedback, and celebrate each other's progress. This kind of friendship isn't just enjoyable, it's transformative. It creates a space where both individuals can thrive, not in spite of their challenges, but because of the support they give each other. But meaningful relationships don't just happen, they require effort and intentionality. Seneca reminds us that true friendship is an investment, one that pays dividends in the form of emotional resilience, personal growth, and a deeper sense of belonging. It's about showing up even when it's inconvenient and being present even when life gets busy. Now consider your own life. Who are the people who truly matter to you? Are you nurturing those relationships, or have you let them drift into the background? Stoicism invites us to reflect on this, not with guilt but with clarity. It's a reminder that the quality of our relationships often determines the quality of our lives. Here's a challenge for you today. Reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture, just a simple message to let them know you're thinking of them. In doing so, you're not just reconnecting, you're honoring the Stoic belief that meaningful relationships are one of life's greatest treasures. Because in the end, it's not the things we accumulate, but the connections we cultivate that truly define the richness of our lives. Humility is the foundation of wisdom. It's not about thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less, a subtle yet profound shift that lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. For the Stoics, humility wasn't just a virtue, it was a practical tool for living a grounded, purposeful life. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most renowned figures, often reflected on this in his personal writings. He believed that humility keeps us connected to reality, reminding us that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. In his words, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. This isn't just about avoiding retaliation. It's about rising above pettiness and ego, choosing instead to act with grace and integrity. Humility, in the Stoic sense, is about recognizing our limitations and embracing our humanity. It's the ability to admit when we're wrong, to learn from others, and to approach life with a sense of curiosity rather than arrogance. Think about it. How often do we let pride or ego cloud our judgment? Maybe it's insisting we're right in an argument or resisting feedback because it feels like a blow to our self-esteem. The Stoics would argue that these moments are opportunities to practice humility, to let go of the need to be perfect and instead embrace growth. Let's take this idea into a modern context. Imagine a leader who faces criticism from their team. A humble leader wouldn't react defensively or dismiss the feedback. Instead, they'd listen with openness, acknowledging their mistakes and committing to improvement. This kind of humility doesn't weaken their authority, it strengthens it. It builds trust, fosters collaboration, and creates a culture where everyone feels valued. In relationships, humility works similarly. It allows us to prioritize connection over being right, to apologize when we've hurt someone, and to approach conflicts with a willingness to understand rather than to win. Now consider your own life. Is there a situation where humility could have made a difference? Maybe it's a disagreement where you held onto your pride, or a moment when you dismissed someone's perspective because it didn't align with your own. Humility invites us to reflect on these moments not with guilt but with the intention to grow. It's about recognizing that we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. Here's a challenge for you today. Think of a recent interaction where you could have been more humble. What would it have looked like to approach that situation with a bit more openness and less ego? By practicing humility, even in small ways, we not only improve our relationships but also deepen our understanding of ourselves. And in a world that often rewards self-promotion, this quiet strength is a rare and powerful gift. How often do you let emotions dictate your decisions? It's a question worth asking because, let's face it, emotions can be powerful, sometimes overwhelming. But Stoicism offers a different approach, one that puts reason at the center of how we navigate life. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, believed that reason is our greatest tool. He famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." At its core, this statement is a reminder that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond, and that's where reason comes in. For the Stoics, reason wasn't just about logic or intellect, it was about clarity. It's the ability to step back from a situation, to see it objectively, and to choose a response that aligns with our values rather than our impulses. Think about it. How often do we react in the heat of the moment, only to regret it later? Maybe it's snapping at a loved one during an argument or making a hasty decision under pressure. These moments, while human, often lead to outcomes we could have avoided if we'd taken a moment to think. Let's bring this idea to life with a practical example. Imagine you're in a meeting at work and a colleague criticizes your idea in front of everyone. Your first instinct might be to defend yourself, to fire back, or even to shut down. But what if, instead of reacting immediately, you paused? What if you took a breath, considered their perspective, and responded with calm and clarity? This isn't about being passive, it's about choosing to act with reason rather than react with emotion. The Stoics believed that reason is what sets us apart as humans. It's what allows us to rise above our instincts and make choices that reflect our highest selves. Epictetus put it this way: no man is free who is not master of himself. In other words, true freedom comes from mastering our emotions, not letting them master us. This doesn't mean suppressing how we feel. It means acknowledging our emotions without letting them dictate our actions. So here's a challenge for you. The next time you find yourself in a difficult situation, whether it's a disagreement, a setback, or even just a moment of frustration, pause. Take a moment to step back and ask yourself, what's the rational response here? By practicing this Stoic principle, you'll not only handle challenges more effectively, but also cultivate a deeper sense of inner peace. Reason, as the Stoics teach us, is more than just a tool. It's a way of life. It's the compass that guides us through life's storms, helping us stay grounded even when emotions threaten to pull us off course. And in a world that often feels chaotic, that kind of clarity is priceless. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. It's not about excusing someone else's actions or pretending that hurt never happened. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of resentment. Stoicism, with its emphasis on inner peace and emotional resilience, offers a powerful perspective on forgiveness, one that's rooted in self-preservation rather than weakness. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most insightful voices, put it bluntly: anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. These words remind us that holding onto anger doesn't punish the person who wronged us, it punishes us. Think about it. How much energy do we waste replaying past hurts, imagining what we could have said or done differently, or holding grudges that only grow heavier with time? The Stoics believed that this kind of emotional baggage doesn't just weigh us down, it distracts us from living fully in the present. Forgiveness, in their view, isn't about the other person. It's about reclaiming your peace and redirecting your energy toward what truly matters. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine someone who's been deeply hurt by a betrayal, a friend who broke their trust, a partner who lied, or a colleague who undermined them. The natural response might be anger, even a desire for revenge, but a Stoic approach would shift the focus inward. Instead of dwelling on the betrayal, they'd ask, how is holding onto this anger serving me? Is it bringing me closer to the person I want to be? By choosing to forgive, they're not condoning the behavior. They're choosing to let go of the emotional burden that's holding them back. Forgiveness isn't always easy, especially when the hurt runs deep. But the Stoics remind us that it's a practice, not a one-time event. It starts with small steps, acknowledging the pain, reflecting on what it's teaching us, and gradually releasing the grip it has on our emotions. Over time, this practice doesn't just heal old wounds, it builds emotional resilience, making us better equipped to handle future challenges. Here's a question to reflect on. Is there someone in your life, including yourself, that you need to forgive? Maybe it's a past mistake, a lingering resentment, or even a relationship that didn't turn out the way you hoped. What would it feel like to let go of that anger, not for their sake, but for your own? Stoicism teaches us that forgiveness isn't just an act of kindness, it's an act of strength. It's the courage to release what no longer serves us and to move forward with clarity and purpose. And in a world that often feels heavy with conflict and misunderstanding, that kind of freedom is truly transformative. What have you learned recently that changed your perspective? It's a question worth sitting with because the pursuit of wisdom is at the very heart of Stoicism. For the Stoics, wisdom wasn't just about accumulating knowledge, it was about transforming how we see the world and ourselves. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, captured this beautifully when he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, the more we learn and reflect, the more we shape who we are. Wisdom, in this sense, is a lifelong journey, one that never stops evolving. Unlike fleeting achievements or material possessions, wisdom is something that grows with us. It's not something you can lose or outgrow. It becomes part of who you are. Marcus Aurelius, despite being a Roman emperor with immense responsibilities, made a point to dedicate time each day to reading, writing, and reflecting. He understood that wisdom wasn't a destination but a practice, a daily commitment to expanding his understanding of the world and his place in it. Let's bring this idea into a modern context. Imagine someone who sets aside just 15 minutes a day to read a book, listen to a podcast, or journal their thoughts. Over time, those small moments add up, not just in terms of knowledge, but in how they shape their mindset. They might start to see challenges as opportunities for growth, relationships as mirrors for self-reflection, and setbacks as lessons in resilience. This is the power of wisdom. It doesn't just inform, it transforms. But wisdom isn't just about consuming information, it's about reflecting on it. The Stoics believed that true understanding comes from contemplation. It's not enough to read a great book or hear a profound idea. You have to sit with it, wrestle with it, and ask yourself how it applies to your life. This is why Marcus Aurelius kept a journal, not just to record his thoughts, but to process them, to turn insights into action. So, here's a challenge for you. This month, commit to learning something new. It could be reading a book that challenges your perspective, exploring a topic you've always been curious about, or even having a meaningful conversation with someone who sees the world differently. And as you do, take a moment to reflect. How is this new knowledge shaping your thoughts, your actions, your soul? The pursuit of wisdom isn't about becoming an expert or knowing all the answers. It's about staying curious, staying humble, and staying open to the endless possibilities of growth. Because as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the more we learn, the more we become, and that in itself is a journey worth embracing. As we come to the end of this journey through Stoic reflections on time, purpose, and priorities, let's take a moment to revisit what we've uncovered. Stoicism isn't just an ancient philosophy, it's a timeless guide for living with intention and clarity. From understanding the fleeting nature of time to aligning our actions with our deepest values, these principles offer us a roadmap for a more meaningful life. Seneca's words ring as true today as they did centuries ago. Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life. This isn't just a poetic idea, it's a call to action, urging us to treat each day as a gift and to make the most of the time we have. At its core, Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control: our thoughts, our choices, and our responses. It invites us to let go of what's beyond our influence, whether it's the opinions of others, the unpredictability of life, or the distractions that pull us away from what truly matters. By embracing this mindset, we can transform how we relate to time, seeing it not as something to be managed, but as something to be lived. Purpose, too, takes on a new meaning through the Stoic lens. It's not about chasing external achievements or societal expectations, but about aligning our actions with our inner values. As we've seen, this alignment brings a sense of fulfillment that no amount of material success can match. And when it comes to priorities, Stoicism challenges us to ask ourselves, are we investing our time and energy in what truly matters, or are we letting distractions dictate our days? But Stoicism isn't just about reflection, it's about action. It's about taking these lessons and applying them one small step at a time. Whether it's practicing gratitude, embracing simplicity, or finding strength in adversity, each of these principles is a tool for living more intentionally. So, as we wrap up, here's a question for you. What's one Stoic principle that resonates with you most? Is it the idea of focusing on what you can control, or perhaps the practice of living in the present moment? Whatever it is, take a moment to reflect on how you can bring it into your life today. Before we go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you plan to apply these Stoic reflections in your own life? Share your ideas in the comments below. I'll be reading everyone. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new exploration of Stoic wisdom. Together, let's continue this journey toward a life of purpose, clarity, and intentionality. Thank you for watching, and remember, today is your day to begin living fully.